your 19 First Alert forecast.
Good afternoon, I'm Dan DeRose with 19 News, coming to you from our digital desk, and I'm joined by none other than First Alert meteorologist Sam Roberts. Sam, how are you today?
I'm good, Dan. How are you?
It's, I would be better if we didn't have to talk about what we have to talk about coming on Monday. Monday, a first alert weather day. Sam, explain for everybody at home, first of all, what do we mean by a first alert weather day?
So we issue alert days when we feel the weather is going to impact you in a more significant manner. Obviously, the weather impacts us every day to varying degrees, right? If it's cold, you're going to grab a coat, or if we've got rain in the forecast, you're going to grab something waterproof or an umbrella. So there's always a way that the weather's impacting us, but some days it's a little bit more significant than others. We might see significant disruptions to our commute, maybe some school closures or delays. I'm not guaranteeing school delays, by the way, on Monday. I'm just using that as an example of a reason we might issue an alert day, because that is something that impacts people significantly, right? Sometimes the weather even costs us money. You have to find childcare because of a school closure or something like that. So, a day where the weather is more impactful, that is a first alert weather day.
That is incredibly well said, covers all the bases. Today, not in a first alert weather day, correct? It's Monday.
Yeah, Monday. And, Dan, right now, Tuesday is not a first alert weather day, but if we have lingering lake effect for Tuesday morning's commute, and I suspect that we will, we'll have to issue another alert day, probably for the snow belt. But, let's just kind of get through Sunday night and Monday first, and then we'll kind of make adjustments where we need to about Tuesday.
Let's get to the weather that's on the map right now. What are we dealing with for the rest of the day?
So we got some rain out there, and we didn't issue an alert day today because when it rains in November, that's kind of just a typical November kind of thing, right? It's windy, rainy, but we don't have any severe weather out there. We did have some lightning several hours ago, but I'm not seeing any of that right now. We've just got rain south of Akron. This is all moving east, so the back edge of the rain has already moved past I-71, and I think by 5 o'clock, if not much sooner than that, maybe even 4, we should be dry area-wide with just a chance for an isolated shower this evening. I mentioned the wind. It's also been super windy today. Wind should back off after like 9, 10 o'clock, and it will not be windy at all during the day tomorrow. So if you, today probably not a great day to, rake and do yard stuff or like winter preparation stuff because everything's so wet. But like if you need to get stuff done outdoors tomorrow, maybe disconnecting your outdoor hose or all the stuff we do to winterize our homes, right? Tomorrow is going to be an excellent day to do that.
Thanks, Sam. You just gave me an entire day's worth of work that I have to get done. I appreciate that. We're going to take a quick break, folks, because then boy, we really have to get to the dirty part of this. The Sunday night into Monday morning and Tuesday, we are in for a world of change. So give us just 60 seconds and we'll be right back. All righty, Sam, let's get into what we don't want to talk about. The second half of the weekend is really kind of a transition point for everybody.
Yeah, this is why I gave everybody a to-do list for tomorrow, because Sunday, you're not even going to want to do anything outside. I mean, we're going to start with scattered rain, and it's going to be breezy on Sunday, especially later in the day. It's also only going to be 46, so it's going to be kind of a cold rain, and then you factor in the breeze. Just not a nice day at all. This rain actually starts on Saturday night and continues into Sunday. It'll be pretty scattered, but it'll get colder as the day goes on Sunday. So we'll transition to more of a wintry mix. And then as the system pulls away, we'll transition over to more of a lake effect snow situation. So Monday is going to feature lake effect snow bands and squalls. Remember, that's not a system at that point, so the snow will be more localized. So maybe you live in let's say Worcester, and it's not snowing where you are, but your friend who lives out in Chesterland is seeing a ton of snow, or even it's snowing in Chesterland and then 5 miles away, they're getting a break. So conditions change really rapidly in a lake effect setup. So we're expecting those squalls.
Right, and I'm going to help Sam out because they take so much criticism when we have lake effect events. You'll have people down in Akron who say, remember all those weather people who said it was going to snow? I haven't seen a single flake. Well, no, you haven't, but how about you go out to Chardon and spend a half hour and you're going to see some snow. So this is one of those you have to pay attention. It's those bands. Think about, when we look at the radar. Sam, if you could put up just the radar right now. If you think about when you see, you'll get it there. When you see those bands, like right there, those bands of moisture, we know with lake effect, those bands of moisture are going to be coming off the lake from the northwest to the southeast, like where you see Menor and Ashtabula. Where those bands set up, it's tough to tell because it's all about the wind. I'm not the meteorologist, but I've spent so much time listening to, see there, Sam, walk us through it. That's perfect.
Yeah, this is just a good example of what it might look like. And don't put your money on the snow popping up in Sandusky at 6 a.m. on Monday. Again, this is just a model, but this, as we go back in time, let's kind of start Sunday night. So you can see we transition to more of a lake effect situation. It's a little more localized. I do think we're going to get some snow down in Mansfield and Ashland. That is our tertiary or third snow belt. I don't think this is showing enough snow right now. Again, this is just one model. It's not showing enough out east or in Cleveland. But when you get that north wind situation, you get those bands coming off of Lake Erie and with connection off Lake Huron, it could be snowing heavily on 480. And then there's like a pocket of 71 where we're not getting any snow. So with lake effect, the kind of headache is that the conditions change really rapidly as you're driving around, so you can get into a squall, and this is our first lake effect situation of the year. We also want to be aware that there is a ton of construction going on right now, especially in really high traffic areas. There's always construction here that's not out of the ordinary, but I feel like this year there's like a ton of it, especially on I-90. We're seeing delays on I-90 sometimes, on a dry day. I was stuck on 90 this morning for like 40 minutes and there was no rain. So Monday, just, kind of pre-plan your travel, check the First Alert weather app before you head out. And if you see that there is lake effect snow out there, just know that, hey, maybe I should give myself extra time or maybe take a different route, because I'm expecting a pretty rough commute on Monday, and for some, a rough commute on Tuesday. And I think the Monday evening commute could even be troublesome in spots.
Is it too early to talk accumulations? I know that's tough. That's putting you on the spot.
So with a system, it's a little easier because models just kind of handle that a little bit better most of the time. With lake effect, it's tough to give totals this far out, but we can still give you an idea of what to expect, and we can still talk about impact. So this is Snow Tracker, and I started it Sunday because this is going to be a longer duration event. We're going to start to see snow Sunday night. Then we'll have the localized lake effect on Monday and Tuesday. So this is just Sunday night through Monday night. And what I'm thinking right now is 3 to 6 plus in the primary snow belt, which would be basically Euclid 271 and east to Warren. This also includes Northern Summit, Northern Portage. I would consider that part of the primary snow belt. Secondary snow belt, I'm going to say 1 to 3 across parts of Lorain, parts of Cuyahoga County West, Medina County, Brunswick, Akron. I suspect Akron will fall on the lower end of this, but you get up into like Brunswick or Brecksville, Broadview Heights. This is where we could get on the higher end of that range. And then outside of the secondary snow belt, lower totals, lower impact. It's also always important to add with a lake effect forecast, we're going to see higher snowfall totals where squalls persist. So lake effect bands, they kind of wobble. Sometimes they stall out. Sometimes they're moving depending on what's going on with the wind. So let's say we get a good band going around Mansfield. We could end up with more than an inch of snow, but it's all about just kind of waiting to see where these set up. But this at least gives you an idea of where to expect the most snow and the highest impact.
Sam, let me ask you this. Is the ground too warm? Sometimes our first snow events, it doesn't stick because the ground's too warm. Or is this going to be one of those events where we get so much of it at a time that it's just going to pile up?
So it probably won't stick initially. That's an excellent question. Initially, because the ground is so warm, especially closer to Lake Erie where lake temperatures are still, I wrote it down this morning, off Cleveland, the lake temp is 57, the average is 54. I know 3 degrees doesn't sound like a lot, but it is pretty significant when you're talking about lake effect. So I feel like initially this is not going to stick. Remember I said Sunday we're going to change over to a wintry mix from the rain during the day, and then eventually we'll change over to snow. System pulls away, we transition to lake effect by Monday. So with the initial stuff on Sunday night, probably not going to stick unless it's a grassy, elevated surface, maybe an untreated bridge or overpass. Initially it melts and then starts to stick. But one thing with snow, even early season snow, is that heavy snowfall rates, so if we get some heavy snow, can overcome warm ground temperature. So it may not stick initially, but eventually I do think it's going to stick. It's also probably going to be a heavier snow. We talk a lot about snowfall ratio, and I think I won't go into the weeds on that, but I do think this will be somewhat of a heavier, wetter snow. I don't expect right now light, fluffy snow. Andy, I don't know if you have an opinion on that or not. Andy's in here too, so there's always multiple weather people working on the forecast.
I agree with you.
He agrees.
He concurs.
Heavy,
He concurs.
Snow ratios, I'll be honest, are not my favorite part of forecasting, but yeah, we think kind of a heavier, wetter snow. So yeah, it's always fun to talk about the first one. Maybe not fun for everybody else, but fun for us.
And then my last question, and I thought this was a phenomenal piece of information you gave out yesterday during the weathercast during the news, was when we generally see our first snow. People are thinking, oh, this is so early, this is so early, and I think you had a date. What do we generally say?
It's perfect timing. It's November 10th, which every year when I go back and look at statistics, I'm always surprised, like, because, and it's all because of recency bias, right? Because other than last winter, the prior 8 or 9 winters were well above average. We didn't see snow until basically December. You know how it feels like winter is getting later and it's lasting into spring, is how a lot of people feel, because that's kind of been the trend lately. So I know November 10th sounds early, but statistically we do see our first measurable snow in Cleveland on November 10th. So this is actually perfect timing. Although I will say last year, I'd have to go back and look at the numbers, but I didn't see a flake on the west side last year. Remember, we had all that lake effect on Thanksgiving out in Saybrook. I think they had 60 inches of snow or something insane. I didn't see a flake in Cleveland until December, so it varies every year, but statistically November 10th.
And then we see it's probably all going to melt by middle of next week.
Yeah, I think we'll see some significant melting, lingering lake effect Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday trending a little bit milder. Friday still in the 40s. And right now, next weekend actually looks pretty nice, but stay tuned because that'll probably change at least a few times.
Excellent. 19 First Alert meteorologist Sam Roberts, thanks for getting us prepared for really our first snow event of the year or of the season for most. So we'll see you at 3 o'clock.
Exciting. All right, see you at
All
3.
right, take care. Sam loves the snow. That's why she said it's exciting. She's a meteorologist, that she can like snow. The rest of us can hate it. We do have 3.5 hours of news and First Alert weather coming up at 3 o'clock. That's just a half an hour from now on Channel 19. Until then, I'm Dan DeRose with 19 News. Hope you have a great weekend.